Live. Okay. Well, as many of you Saints fans know, Jim Henderson retired today after 30 years of broadcasting for the Saints. Many of you may or may not know Ian Auzenne.
Hi there.
You might have heard his show on 1420. It's the Ozone, correct?
That's right.
And it's on Saturday mornings starting at
8 to 11 every Saturday.
I'm never up at 8 o'clock, but I usually catch that 9 o'clock hour. Ian, you shared an incredible story on social media today of interaction with Jim Henderson and you.
Right, and this goes back to when I was still doing play-by-play for the Ice Gators, back when the Ice Gators were still around. On Twitter, I think I said 2011. It may have been 2012. Somewhere in there, the dates are fuzzy. But long story short, I reached out to Jim Henderson. He was still working at WWL TV at the time, so his email was online. I reached out to him. I said, essentially, hey, I'm in the broadcast business. I'm trying to figure out what to do, how to get where I want to go. Do you have any words of wisdom? He wrote back. He said, what's your phone number? What's your phone number? I'll call you. So he called me. I missed the call. I called him back. We played phone tag. A Friday night, about 2 hours before an Ice Gator game, my phone rings and I see it's Jim's number. And I answer. We spent an hour talking about broadcasting, the ins and outs of the business, prep, our love of sports, our love of words, and how to craft intros, outros, scripts, and things like that. And for a while it was, well, really for the entire hour that we spoke, it was as if two people who knew each other. He was really down to earth, and is one of the great experiences and one of the most valuable experiences I've had in my early days of trying to make it in the sports radio and sports broadcast business.
He'd been doing it, you said it was in 2011, 2012. He'd been doing this for, he'd been doing the Saints alone for almost 25 years, 25 years at the point. I mean, he didn't have to call you.
And that's the thing. When I reached out to him, I didn't expect anything. Maybe I'd get an email saying, a generic email saying, keep at it, keep working forward, don't give up, or something to that effect. But the fact that he took time out, A, to respond and say, send me your number, B, that he called and then played the game of phone tag until we eventually connected later that week. And I'm disappointed because I would have liked to have kept in touch with him, but he left WWL. I lost track of him after that. And my mom threw away the notebook in which I had his phone number written down, and I didn't save it in my Crackberry at the time. So I lost contact with him, but that memory has always stuck. And as someone who grew up as a suffering Saints fan, as someone who grew up listening to him through the highs and through the lows and through the Super Bowl and everything else, his voice is a permanent part of my life. I grew up listening to him call Saints games, first with Archie Manning, then with Hokie Gajan, now with Deuce McAllister through the last 2 years. If you think back through all the Billy Joes and the Jake Delomes and Ricky Williams through all the injuries, the 2000 season, people remember that year because of the first playoff win. People remember Aaron Brooks, Joe Horn, Willie Jackson, Fred McAfee, and some of the other names. But because of Jim Henderson, if you remember listening to that call, you know that Brian Milne is the most unlikely of heroes. He recovered the muff punt by Hakeem. There is a God after all. Those words stick with you because Jim was there for those exciting moments after so many years of lackluster play by the Saints. That announcement today at first felt like a gut punch, but at the same time, you realize he's been in broadcasting now for 40 years. He started at WWL TV in 78, I think. And in that time, he has become such an integral part, not just of New Orleans broadcasting and New Orleans radio, but of everyone within the southeastern region who grew up listening to the Saints. And I wish him well and nothing but the best in his retirement. I'm hoping he changes his mind, but it's unlikely that's going to happen. So I wish him the best, nothing but the best, and I thank him for all of his for all of the years that he put in to the Saints broadcast and for helping this not-so-little broadcaster out in his early days.
I've heard stories like this all across Acadia and all across the state today of people so thankful that Jim Henderson played a role in their life. Now, if you have a great story, head over to KATC.com or head over to our Facebook or Twitter. Share your story with us. We'd love to hear it. And, of course, tonight coming up at 10, we will have more on Jim Henderson's retirement.
Yeah, and until then, go on YouTube. Go and listen to some of the classic calls. Party with the Lombardi. Pigs have flown. Hell's frozen over. The Saints are going to the Super Bowl. I was in New Jersey for that particular call. A friend of mine and I were at a certain in the game, and I rushed back to the car. He's like, "Where are you going?" I need to put on the radio. I need to hear Jim Henderson call it. So we were there. 5 minutes later, I heard the call, and by the end of that night, I listened to Jim Henderson and the Pigs Have Flown line at least 100 times. So again,
You guys at 10.
bye.